The new animated Transformers prequel, Transformers 1, is now showing in cinemas, so here's my review of Transformers 1. Just a quick little tangent, but does anybody else find it funny that now whenever we say Transformers 1, we have to clarify if we're talking about this movie or the 2007 movie, because I do. Anyway, going into this, I was expecting something at the level of Spider-Verse with all the hype this movie's been generating. Early reviews all say one thing, and that's this movie is really good. Having seen it now, I will say, it is surprisingly good. I feel like majority of people weren't feeling too optimistic about this movie initially because of the trailers, but rest assured that the movie itself is way better than the trailers made it out to be. This movie, of course, tells the origin story of Optimus Prime and Megatron and shows us how their legendary rivalry came to be. What I really liked about this movie is the friendship between Orion Pax, aka Optimus Prime, and D16, aka Megatron. Going into this prequel, I'm pretty sure everyone knows that by the end, these two are gonna be bitter rivals. But despite knowing what's to come, I think this movie does a really good job of building up their relationship, convincing the audience of their brotherhood. This movie does for Optimus Prime and Megatron what X-Men First Class did for Professor X and Magneto. And that's tell a really good story of two friends, brothers who want the same thing but have different ways of trying to achieve it. Their friendship is the heart of this movie, and I really like that. This movie is also surprisingly funny. I think the trailer showed some of the not so funny jokes in the movie, but I think you'd be surprised by how funny this movie could be, and I don't think it ever overshadows the serious parts of the movie either. This movie knows when to have fun and when to get serious. Now let's talk about the voice cast for a second, because I think for the most part, the cast does a pretty good job. But I think all eyes or ears are gonna be on Chris Hemsworth, who plays Orion Pax, aka young Optimus Prime. I think I'm not alone in saying that Peter Cullen is the definitive voice of Optimus Prime. When you think of Optimus Prime, it's his voice you hear in your head. And in my opinion, there are a few times in this movie where you can hear a little bit of Peter Cullen and Chris Hemsworth's performance, but in my opinion, it still sounds like Chris Hemsworth. Specifically, a Chris Hemsworth really trying to pull off an American accent. I feel like there's a lot of stress in his pronunciation of the letter R, and at times it doesn't sound natural anymore. Like, say the word he's trying to say is water. To me, it sounds like he's fighting the urge to pronounce it like water, because he says it like water. But to me, it sounds like an Australian desperately trying to convince you he's American, and it was kinda distracting, in my opinion. It could be because I'm not used to hearing someone else voice Optimus Prime, but I don't know. Regardless of his performance though, I think his Optimus Prime / Orion Pax is the best written character in this movie. Now during the premiere of this movie in the Philippines, which I was invited to, I interviewed a bunch of people asking them their thoughts on the movie, and a good amount of them said that this is now their favorite Transformers movie, which I can totally see, but despite liking this movie, I do feel there are certain things about it that is preventing it from becoming my personal favorite Transformers movie. Things I think need a little more improvement. For one, they make a huge deal in the beginning portion of the movie about not being able to transform, because in the early part of the movie, our characters can't transform yet. And I was trying to find the deeper meaning behind that, because I personally can't relate to wanting to transform. Like, what is the metaphor for that, and why does it mean so much to the characters? There was a certain disconnect for me when it came to that part of the story, and I'm curious to see if anyone else felt that way too. Now, I'm assuming we all know Megatron will end up being the bad guy, but there's another primary villain in here, and it's a surprise, so I won't spoil it. But if you've watched Transformers Dark of the Moon, I'm pretty sure you already know this character is a bad guy way before they reveal it. Now, I know I praised the friendship between Orion Pax and D16 aka Megatron earlier, but I honestly feel like we could have used more development for Megatron, because I couldn't really get behind why he turned evil. I could understand why he and Optimus would butt heads, but as to why he had a complete 180 as a character, I couldn't connect with that. No spoilers, of course, but the characters in this movie find out something about their world that changes everything. But out of all of them, Megatron or D16 is the one person who takes it the worst. And I was looking for a reason as to why he had a more aggressive or more violent reaction than the other ones did, and I feel like this movie kinda left us hanging with that. You look at Magneto from the X-Men movies, and you could see why someone like him would have this built-up anger towards humans. Because he has seen the worst of humanity firsthand, and through his fellow mutants who, like him, have been treated terribly by humans. With Megatron, I kept thinking to myself, what was it that had him so mad? Madder than anyone else in that team, to the point of wanting to take another life? Did he lose someone? Again, I'm curious to see if anybody else feels this way about Megatron, because I've seen a couple people talk about this, and a lot of them love everything about this movie. But despite that, I thought this movie was still surprisingly good. It's not quite the Spider-Verse level I thought it was gonna be, but still a pretty solid movie that knew when to have fun and when to take things seriously. My favorite Transformers movie is still Bumblebee because I personally prefer smaller scale Transformers stories. For me, there's more room for intimacy and attachment to the characters when the movie is smaller in scale. I also recently finished reading Volume 1 of the new Transformers comics from Image Comics, which you guys should totally check out if you haven't yet. And I like that one a lot too because for the most part, the story is small in scale. It's basically about Transformers arriving at this small town. If I were to rank my top 3 Transformers movies, first place would be Bumblebee, second place is the 2007 Transformers movie. If you could get past some of the edgy, dated Michael Bay jokes, I still think it's pretty good. And third place would be this movie.